can you explain a little bit what's your story, where you're from, and what have you been doing in your life to get you where you are now?
Yeah, well, basically, I start with I'm a father. That's relevant to what we're talking about here. So I'm a father of two teenagers. I've got a 13-year-old daughter now and a 15-year-old son, and I'm also alpha to a 5-year-old Damascus wolf dog who's nuts. I'm the only one that can get the slippers off of him when he decides to run off with them. He doesn't listen to anybody else, so I class myself the alpha in that respect. But I'm also, I'm lucky to have been married now for 23 years to my amazing wife, who's very understanding as well. And, I think she would probably describe me as like an emotionally aware Dr. Spock who looks like Shrek. It's that kind of rounds me up, I think. But my kind of background, if you like, I'm a former mechanical design engineer for 18 years, and that was kind of that was my career. That was what I was doing. But in parallel to that, I've always been interested in martial arts and contact sports. When I was at school, I was the kid that was both I was the science geek but the sports freak at the same time. I was the kid that had the broken glasses that liked the contact sports. I was a bit weird, most people didn't really get me. It was why do you like that stuff? Why do you, the stuff that hurts, why do you like it? I just like that challenge. I kind of just found that, and if I could get back up and carry on when others wouldn't, I got a buzz off of that. And I kind of realized that actually it didn't really hurt. It was just kind of, it was how you perceived it. And I loved that sort of physical push. And I kind of constantly had that at the same time that I was working as a design engineer. So I was with a whole load of other Dr. Spocks during the day that kind of didn't understand the sport freak part at all. But then I had this kind of parallel life where I was then mingling with other people that understood they wanted to push themselves. And I really loved that in a physical sense. And actually with the physical sense that I chose, being Muay Thai, that obviously, you can relate to as well there, class. It's not for everybody. Everyone can choose these different sort of outlets. But for me, that really solved the puzzle for me. When I found Muay Thai, it was like, this is the solution that I was after. It's testing me on all fronts in a way that I feel really lets me explore what I can achieve. And I was constantly the designer in the office with the black eye and the all these kind of the limp from the dead legs and this kind of stuff from competing, that was really out of context in that scenario. So I eventually, after 18 years of doing everything in parallel and training and training myself, training others, and then also later on competing as well, I decided actually I felt more aligned to coaching others. I found that actually my sort of logical and analytical side, if you like, from the engineering, I could equally use that in planning training. And I've always been one of these guys that explores and researches other avenues. So it wasn't just what I was learning from Muay Thai. In other contact sports that I was doing, we were using strength and conditioning. So I was using that from early on in my career. And actually that ended up being a massive strength, as it turned out, literally. But in terms of my conditioning, it was kind of what I was renowned for. My Muay Thai coach didn't like training fighters. He didn't have that capacity. He didn't have that experience. He loved the tradition and the technique, and we did that. And I kind of got frustrated. I was getting over the age of 30, and I was thinking, I need to compete. And we were only doing what we call interclubs in the UK, which are like non-decision fights, probably once or twice a year. And by the time I was coming back to doing my next interclub, I felt like I was starting again and I wasn't getting momentum. And I eventually kind of had to speak to my coach and say, look, I really want to compete. And he basically said that I can't afford the time to do it. If you want to do it, you're going to have to do it yourself and arrange your own fights, sort out your corner, because I can't get there at the weekends. And if anyone else wants to fight, you'll have to do it. You have to sort them out as well. So I was kind of like, well, I really wanted some guidance on this, but if this is the only way I'm going to do it, I will research it myself, carry on, because I'm used to doing that, and just see how far I can push it. And as it worked out, it all went very well, actually. After an initial loss, a close loss, really learned a lot. and then managed in that first year as an amateur. I was competing on that circuit to get selected and go and fight at the World Championships. And at that stage, the bit I was still missing was how to corner a fight, how to psychologically and physically prepare immediately before a fight. I had all the longer term stuff, but not that imminent what you do at ringside. All that side was still a mystery. No one had shown me that. I was observing what the other coaches were doing, and learning and doing whatever I could to find out. But once I went to the World Championships, because I didn't have a coach, I was allowed to actually take any of the other coaches from the England team to look after me. And that was a real honor. And I chose a guy called Vinny Decon from KO Gym in London, because most of my amateur fights were there, and he knew me really well. And he took me under his wing and prepped me for that first fight. And in that fighting tournament sort of format, once you lose, you're out. So I was like, right, I'm really inexperienced here. I might have won several titles in the UK in that first year, but this is now the world stage, and this is different. And I really learned how to prepare for a fight, because I managed to win that first fight. I managed to win my next fight, all with Vinny looking after me. And then the third fight, I actually drew the 2 times defending world champion from Russia. So that was like, oh, here we go. This could be me going home now, but I've had a good run. And it was a really tough fight, and I did lose, but by split decision. It was really close. So I was over the moon, and more than that, I was kind of really grateful to Vinny Decon for what he showed me. And I had those with managing to win that many times and continue fighting. I had that repetition of working that fight procedure and getting prepared and tweaking the process to make it work better and better for me. So I actually had that learning experience as I went along, and that kind of cemented it for me. I came back from that just being stopped just short of getting a medal. If I'd have won that fight, I'd have been guaranteed a medal. So I came back without one, and I did manage to go back for the European Championships and get a silver medal for that. So that was kind of like I got something for that one. So I managed to get a lot of experience, and it was how I managed to apply that to not only coach myself, but then roll it out to coach other people. And I managed to get another fighter to get a gold medal actually at that European Championships as well. So I kind of managed to prove the process and fine tune it to help other people kind of push themselves as far as they could as well. And that was a decision time then, that I loved doing the engineering. That analytical side was great, but my real passion was in Muay Thai and finding the limits that side as well. And I could find how I could apply that stuff to my Muay Thai. And I decided, with the support of my family, and this was a big gamble, to actually cash in that 18-year career as an engineer and try and open up a full-time gym and try and service Thai boxers, see how much further I could get. And I was old already, to see how much further I could get, but also to help others kind of have the setup and the facility and the process to get as far as they could as well. So that's what I did, and that's what I've been doing since sort of 2008 now, really. And that's evolved into now, say, servicing fighters online. I just found that there's a limited pool of people that are passionate to the level I am, where I locally live. And of course, online, there's that big open pool of passionate people that want to achieve those same things. And I've managed to kind of use my engineering background, if you like, to design processes and standardize on things and design flexibility in testing that allows it to personalize a program to allow fighters to achieve that sort of peak performance. And that's always been my kind of strength, other than just the sort of technical aspect of Muay Thai was rolling out that whole complete picture. And what I've actually found is that I'm not just passionate about Muay Thai and strength and conditioning. It's that I'm passionate about that really everyone deserves not to be limited physically by what they can achieve, and mentally as well, psychologically. That if you can help people overcome those obstacles, that they can achieve their goals and aspirations then. And for me, it's Muay Thai. And for other people, it's other things. But I've seen those repetitive patterns, and I think that's kind of where I've ended up now. That Muay Thai is still my passion, and it's still my ultimate application of that physical pushing the boundaries. That's what I love. But I've really seen how working that sort of process and and having confidence to commit to your passion like that allows you to really open up what you're really capable of.